got what you need. Won't you come with an open heart and listen to my love? Won't you come with an open heart and listen to my love?
Hello, my name is Darold Gholston, and I'd like to welcome you to Listen to Love, segment number 7, where we discuss intimate topics and explore creative ways to celebrate love. Thank you for tuning in to Listen to Love on the Art of Romance channel. Today I'd like to introduce to you Glenn McIntosh. Glenn is going to talk about the impact of relationships. He's going to go deep into the psyche of what makes us fall in love and how to maintain that love. So sit back and relax. But first we're going to hear a song by Willie Max, Lathan Grady, and Michael Hanna. Who Wants to Feel Rushed? You're listening to the Listen to Love show. Now we're going to hear from Gloria. Listen to the words that Gloria is about to tell the lovers out there.
One of the things I love about you the most is that you never pressured me into doing anything I didn't want to do in this relationship. Thank you, baby.
Hello and welcome to the segment 7 of Listen to Love. Today's guest is Glenn McIntosh. Glenn is an extraordinary person who has won Mr. Universe, Mr. USA, and Mr. Michigan for bodybuilding. He also is a licensed counselor, vice president of Oakland University, and a motivational speaker. The segment today is relationship building. And Glenn, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Darold, and thanks for having me.
Glenn, I'd like to talk to you about some of the essence of building a strong relationship and what's needed to build a strong relationship, and how do you know that you're going down the right path?
That's a good question. And there's a lot of different pieces to every relationship, and it really starts with the individual who enters a relationship and how do they perceive themselves? What do they think about themselves? Where are they at in life, and what are they searching for? We talk a lot about man and woman search for meaning, but in that process of searching, there are basic human needs, and some of those includes, beyond Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the need to feel wanted, the need to feel valued. And so most oftentimes we believe that comes about through a relationship with a significant other. And so in life, we go out with the hopes that someday we'll find that person who provides the kind of comfort and appreciation and the big word, love, that we seek, that we want and we need.
Hasn't relationships changed over the years? Now it seems as if it's straight to the bedroom and we try to work things out after the bedroom. Why is that?
Well, I think over time that we've found ourselves being more materialistic, which really manifests itself in us being more physical beings, not taking into account the other dimensions of self, such as our spiritual being. And with that departure from some of the more significant dimensions of self, we do tend to go directly into a physical relationship. And once you wake up next to that person, you realize that most often you wake up next to a stranger. And so if you look back in history, relationships were very different in that they were predicated on gender roles, in that there was a purpose in relationship. A male had a defined role and females had a defined role in relationships. And so those various roles that they played were to be met with a partner that actually provided value to their life.
Is the courtship in relationships gone now? Is that a thing of the past?
I don't think it's gone, but it certainly happens a lot faster. What we call a courtship today, it's really not a place or a space where we get to really know an individual. And so when you talk about relationships and marriages and you ask yourself, why is the divorce rate so high, and why do so many people walk around saying relationships just don't work? It's out of the frustration of not taking the time for that courtship stage of a relationship, getting to know yourself and getting to know that person. And knowing yourself means that I know the things that I must have or want to have in a partner, and then being patient enough to let those things be revealed by that individual. Not just told to you that I'm going to do X, Y, and Z for you, but actually watching over time whether that person displays those things that you value and that you need.
Do you think sex is the most important thing now with some young people in relationships? And why is sex so high on the list?
Well, sex is not the most important thing in a relationship, but yeah, we get distorted into thinking that the physical need, is so overwhelming that we can't wait in a relationship. And so if that person is not willing to have sex with us, we can move on and play the numbers, and someone will have that physical relationship with us. But again, as you and I have discussed previously, relationships are difficult, and they reveal themselves over the course of time. But right now we're in a hot now society in which no one wants to wait. But what happens is, again, once you realize that the physical need has been met, you wake up and you discover whether or not this person is going to be a help to me or a hindrance to me. And when you put that scale out there, help or hindrance scale, oftentimes that person comes up short to meeting your needs.
So let's talk about needs a little bit. What will it take for a person to decide on when is the best time to make love or give up the sex?
Well, that's a difficult question because everybody's different. And so...
And what I mean by that is to still hold some respect for that individual and also try to build on something. Do you think people jump in bed entirely too early?
I think the trend is now that they do. Again, there's just this over-infatuation with sex. We see it everywhere. It's on TV, it's in billboards, it's in our music. And so there's just this overcompensation for a need to have our sexual desires met. And so people so quickly size another individual up by the way they look. And those physical attributes really lead us to having sex with an individual without knowing much about them, which is unfortunate because everyone is out there seeking something. And if you don't let time progress, and again, that person to really avail themselves to you, it's very difficult to wake up and realize I've got the right person. Most often you haven't received the right person.
In relationships, compatibility is one of the key things to bring about a secure relationship. How can people get to know one another and build something from that?
I think it's through conversations. That art of communication is very important. Having those conversations beyond how did your day go, but what's your vision for your life? What are the things that get you jump-started every day, get you excited and enthused? What are the types of things that you're putting into your mind through your music, through the things that you read, the people that you frequent? All those things are doors that you must open to find out information about the individual. And that's where a relationship either thrives or it dies. In that compatibility that you discover initially, we all have to realize that the most difficult point in a relationship is when we realize that that individual that we met on any given day is in a transformational process in that we never stay the same. And so the question is, over the evolution of time, will that person grow into someone that you still infatuated with or that you love and that you want to grow with? Because it's that appreciation for growth that is paramount in a relationship. If you see your partner is growing at a different rate and at a different stage, and you can't appreciate that and you can't connect with that, it causes all kind of issues in that relationship. And that's what you see often. You see the story where there was romance early in a relationship, but after you get past that infatuation stage, then it comes down to how do we build this relationship? And that's where you realize you have two individuals who are very different, and they may have very different interests. And so the question is, can individuals appreciate where that other person is growing into?
And that's well said. Glenn, how do you keep the flame going in a relationship when things seem to be mundane and things start to wilter a little bit?
Mm-hmm. I think you have to be present in a relationship, understanding the needs of the other person, and then by understanding, but also in your mind having a checklist to say, am I meeting the needs of my partner? Again, so that's very outward in thinking about the needs of your partner as opposed to what do I just need. And so in that relationship, it has to be one where you're thinking constantly, am I meeting the needs of this person, particularly the express needs? Am I doing the things that that person kind of grew to expect of me? Simple things like, am I dressing for that person? Are we going out on dates? Are we sitting down talking? Are we having meals together? All those things allow you to have that relationship where you communicate. And all those are really communication points. Every time you go out, you eat a meal, you sit around and you talk, which we know is the greatest form of communication. And that leads to the point where that flame is always there. But when you disconnect from the person, you're not present, it creates all kind of challenges and obstacles and barriers for that relationship.
But sometimes people can get complacent in relationships.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, the guy that gained, let's say, 50 pounds, and maybe the wife is not dressing like she once did at the beginning of the relationships. So sometimes getting comfortable can be a hindrance, or it can be a obstacle in a relationship.
Right. And I think, again, it's through that discovery process we find out what's really on that person's mind. Why is that man gaining that weight? Can that become a project for the two of us, that we begin to eat healthier, we work out, maybe at a gym, we can go walking, which allows us the opportunity to walk in, talk again, we're communicating. The same thing with that woman who stops dressing for the guy. Letting her know that that's something that's very important. But when she actually does dress up, making sure that you compliment her, so she knows that you appreciate that aspect of her.
And I think that's well said, because, for example, Glenn, if you came home and let's say you ate out earlier that day and your wife has cooked this scrumptious meal for you, and she says, well, are you hungry? He says, no. To me, that raises a red flag inside of her mind, because, look, I've been trying to prepare this meal all day, and here you are not hungry. So what's the best way to get around things like that?
Well, again, I think it's incumbent upon that person who's coming to the door to really be observant. And if that person has, cooked dinner, letting her or him know that you appreciate the effort. And it doesn't hurt you to sit down to the table and have a couple bites anyway.
Let's talk about selfishness in a relationship. Sometimes relationships can go astray because of selfishness in terms of the growth process, and how can individuals come together and alleviate that problem of selfishness?
That's a good question, because a lot of times what people call selfishness is someone who's focused. They may have came to a relationship with some goals in mind for their life, and they're on track to achieving those goals, and that other person may not be as focused, or they may be traveling down a different path. That selfishness can appear to be to the other person where you're not giving me enough time or attention. But again, it's at the very start of that relationship, you have to know the direction that person is going. And that's what we don't do, is hit the pause button and say, okay, where are you going in life? What do you vision for yourself? What are your goals, your values, your morals in life? And so when we come to the point where we want to label somebody as selfish, we have to determine, are we correctly labeling that behavior that we're exhibiting or seeing in other people? Is it selfishness, or is it someone who's focused on getting what they want out of life? There's nothing wrong with seeking what you want out of life. But if you come into a relationship, I think you have to have an agreement that, Darold, this is what I'm shooting for in life. Tell me what you're shooting for, and let's support each other. Understand the kind of time commitment it takes for me to get where I want to go may be different from yours. And what I want may pull me out of the relationship more often, or out of the house more often than you.
In the perfect world, I think that is great. But, when we deal with reality of people coming together, it's different from teens coming together compared to people coming together in their 20s. And then when you get into your 30s and 40s, relationship takes on a whole different mindset. Mm-hmm. In the 40s, when you're dating, there is, baggage being brought to the relationship, and everybody brings their bags. How do you decipher what bags not to open at the beginning of the relationship, or do you just kind of keep those bags closed, and as the relationship develops, then you say, oh, by the way, let me tell you about this, or let me tell you about this problem I have with finances, or let me tell you about the problem I have with not wanting to have sex on a regular basis.
Right. Well, again, you're describing the average relationship where those bags are not open at the beginning of a relationship. And so I think it's full disclosure from the very beginning. I want to know because that financial burden that you may have is something that I don't want to take on. The same thing when you talk about frequency of sex. You may have someone who's used to having sexual interactions on a daily or weekly basis, and if you have someone who is not really into sex that frequently, there's a problem. And so that relationship will face a crossroads pretty quickly. Or you'll have one person who may be silent, but they're frustrated in their silence. And so I think it's full disclosure from the very beginning, particularly with individuals who have baggage because of age and experiences in life. It is very important. So the astute individual will spend more time in that courting process, letting that person really disclose that baggage that they're dealing with.
At the beginning of relationships, don't people send their representative? And the representative is representing somebody who may be a false reality of the individual who they really are.
Right.
So how do you know what you're getting until you say I do, and then on the wedding night you say, wow, who are you?
Yeah. Well, again, it's patience. You know, you may want to be in a relationship. You may see the outer person is very attractive and appealing, but it's patience and getting to know that person, discovering who they really are. And like you said, what baggage are they carrying that they're hiding from you because they have sent that representative? And so, again, it comes down to patience and a discovery process that, like it or not, you have to go through if you have hopes of sustaining a long-term relationship.
Well said, Glenn. Well said. Glenn, I'd like to thank you for coming on Listening to Love today. And I would like for you to leave some parting words with the audience about relationships.
Well, everyone wants love. It's a basic need. We want to be valued. We want that person that's there to support us through our challenges and obstacles in life. But at the same time, relationships are difficult because people are very transactional in that they want different things. They have expectations of a partner. And we have to realize that through that transactional process, people are very transformative in nature, and that the person you see today will not be there tomorrow. I'll be very different down the road in 5, 10, 15 years. The things that I value will be very different. The things that I do, my ability to perform will be different. And so there has to be an appreciation, that growth gravitation. And when I say growth gravitation, I'm saying as we grow, we gravitate towards one another, not apart. And how do we do that? By realizing that we have to have an appreciation for how that other person is growing. And that means that no matter what they find is of interest to them, if they're 100% committed to evolving into something different, we're supportive of them. And that love grows through that appreciation for change and growth.
Well said, Glenn McIntosh, here on Listen to Love. And I'd like to thank you very much for being our guest today.
Well, thanks for having me. I think your show is very dynamic. It's much needed because relationships, plain and simple, are very hard.
They are. And I really believe that relationships is the cornerstone to the success in families. And once your family is strengthened, then the community grows. And once the community grows, the city grows. And then we can grow as a country.
Good. Well said.
So thank you very much, Glenn. And I
Thank you.
appreciate you. And I look forward to having you on the next show of Listen to Love.
Thank you. I look forward to coming back.
Thank you.
You're listening to Love on the Art of Romance channel.
Whether you're looking to spice things up or indulge in a bit of self-care, let Art of Romance fulfill all your romantic needs, from sensual adult games to massage oils, candles, chocolate treats, and much, much more. Do you desire a little romance in your life? Visit us at artofromancellc.com. artofromancellc.com.
If you have been enjoying the music on the Art of Romance channel, here's your opportunity to download your favorite songs from Listen to Love and the Art of Romance. Go anywhere where downloads are available. Order your favorite songs today and search for Darold Gholston, Listen to Love.